Hi, it's Emma here. It's been a little while, hasn't it? But fear not, Sam and I have been busy working away on a shiny new season of Coming Out Stories. We've got so many great people we can't wait for you to meet. But in the meantime, we thought we'd get you warmed up and share some of our favourite stories from the past. So here you go. Enjoy. From What Goes On Media, this is Coming Out Stories. It's a podcast about one of the most important conversations of your life. I'm Emma Goswell. This is Dean.
Sexuality for me, it's kind of, people talk about sexuality as if it's like a phase that you go through. It's like this sort of, awakening that you have, and then one day you just think, oh gosh, I feel a bit different. Whereas actually, ever since I can remember, I've always been different. Sexuality for me is more of just it was just a label to put on exactly how I was feeling inside. I knew when I was a kid that I just wasn't like other kids. I preferred to, I saw the colours of the objects, whereas my friends saw the racing car, whereas I was like, oh, that's the beautiful colour of blue. I was able to sit on my mum's knee from no age. She was a hairdresser. She still is now, and I used to sit on the knee of her customers. I'd be talking away goo goo and gaga to her customers, and they would be bouncing me on the knee when we cut their hair. And I think that it was because of that kind of, way of communication and the way that I was brought up, always talking and expressing and meeting people from different ages from all parts of Belfast as my mummy drove around day in, day out, cutting their hair, that I just knew that I felt things in a different way. I was emotional.
And do you get the sense that your family knew that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was never any question that Dean was different. Dean was this, character. Dean was flamboyant, and he's a little boy who just wouldn't shut up. Had way too much energy, more energy than sense half the time. So yeah, I think they always knew. And in fact, nothing was a surprise when later on in life they realised that Dean was homosexual.
He sort of gravitated towards the stage, but you could have just been a thespian rather than a gay man. Could have been a straight thespian.
Well, this is it. And I think that, growing up in the early 90s, I had songs on like Gina G, Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit was the first ever cassette that I owned. And I always remember from a young age, my mummy and daddy driving about. My daddy's a lorry driver, and we don't speak anymore, but my fondest memories are of me and him driving around in his grey Ford Fiesta around the streets of Belfast with Westlife cassettes and Garth Brooks and Macy Gray and Bay City Rollers all playing in the cassettes, and me fumbling around the glove compartment to try and find the next Steps or Spice Girls cassette in there, and I would be singing along, to those tracks with my daddy constantly squeezing my knee because he knew that's what made me scream. And I was always wanting to get up and dance. I wanted to dance and move around and make shows for my friends and family to come and watch and make up little dance routines, and that was just my way of expressing myself. It was never any question about it.
So was it so obvious that you didn't have to have a moment where you had to sit down your parents and go, Mum, Dad, I'm gay?
Well, this is the thing. I think with being such a spiritually awakened young person, I think that you feel different anyway, regardless of what my sexuality was. I just knew that I was different, and with that came a real struggle, because it was quite unfortunate really, but I had a great childhood, a really good childhood, and we had everything that we wanted, but we weren't spoiled, and we were always told to talk. We sat at dinner every single night, the TV went off and the food went on the table and we spoke. But with that becomes a real pain, because I couldn't express how I was feeling. I didn't actually know that me liking boys had such, in-depth consequences for some people, and that this was a real struggle. I thought that me trying to express myself and me not being my authentic self was going to end up in me losing friends, that I was going to be shamed, that I was going to be bullied even harder than I already was. Do you know?
So you didn't want to come out?
I didn't want to come out. I didn't want to admit to myself that I was gay, because I had spent years and years of my life, just thinking, oh, I'm a dancer, I'm a singer, I'm an actor, so therefore I'm allowed to be camp. I walk differently, I spoke differently. And I didn't like that person that I was, because I was being so horrendously bullied in school. So me having to actually admit that was my way of saying, you're right. I was known as Gay Dean. So for me to actually turn around and say I'm gay was almost like admitting defeat.
So you didn't come out at school, but despite the fact you didn't come out, you were Gay Dean anyway.
Yeah. I got called everything. You know, I remember being as young as about 9 or 10, being called faggot. You know, you're queer. Gay Dean was what I was called.
And how did that make you feel? Did you cry? Did you fight back? Did you tell your parents?
Because I was quite cocky anyway, and because I was quite sort of confident on the outer shell, that's where I got my humour from. I learned what to say to be one step ahead. Do you know what I mean? So I was always very sharp-tongued and very quick at firing that insult straight back. But then I would go away and I would sit by myself and I would think about those things that that were being told to me. And the hard thing about it is, Emma, is I was living almost like two lives, right? So at the age of 7, I went into drama school, Saturday afternoons, doing a bit of dancing, which then turned into a real passion, which turned into my whole entire life, and my existence was to be on stage and to be expressive. So I had this life, right? And then on the other side of the coin, I am going through school like anybody else. I was reared, which is another term in Northern Ireland for being brought up. I was reared on the third biggest council estate in Europe, called Rathcoole, where there are paramilitaries and there are big scary men, you know, shooting people's knees off, and not that I lived in sort of any sort of great fear, but when I went into the classroom, or when I went into, you know, the playground, I wasn't able to be my true self. No one really understood me, and in fact I was looked upon as being, you're talking too much, you've too much to say, you're so cocky, you're so arrogant. When in fact I was just beyond my years. I was just brought up speaking to adults from the age of 2. I was loved by my phenomenally amazing, massive family. So for me then to have to dumb all that down and sort of suppress all that inner creativity and that inner voice and that inner spiritual enlightenment was excruciating. It was honestly excruciating.
So did your parents accept you, even though your peers at school appeared to not?
It wasn't a case of being accepted. It was literally just like, that's just the way Dean is. That's just Dean. Do you know? And in fact, I had girlfriends. I had girlfriends. I was such a ladies' man at school, believe it or not. 1 minute I'm teaching them the choreography to S Club 7's latest single, and the next minute I'm like, can we go behind the shed and kiss? Do you know what I mean? I was at the age of 11, I had the internet. I knew what everything was. Everything. I used to go into school and tell all my friends, you know, what the latest thing was, if you know what I mean. So for me then that was the turmoil even that I was facing, was like, but actually I quite fancy these girls. I'm holding hands with girls in the street and all the girls love me. So it wasn't until I was about 12, 13, 14 that I thought, hold on a wee second here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's what it is. You know, I just really like boys. And
was there a conversation then with your parents?
Well,
voiced that?
My mum and dad, when I was about 14, 15, decided to break up, which tore my whole world apart. And I then find it really difficult to find that moment that I could interject and say, hold on, I need to bring you two together because we need to have a conversation. Whereas unfortunately, one was off dancing the tango and the other one was doing the salsa, and I'm stuck in the middle like, oh my goodness, I really need you two to come together because I've got something I need to say. But unfortunately then over the next 2 years, then until I was 16, I ended up counselling the both of them through this breakup and becoming the rock between the two. So I never really found the time to sit down and talk to them about it. Coincidentally then, out of the back of their breakup, my mum and dad, I ended up stopping speaking to my dad because I wasn't happy with what he was doing to my mum. So I then had all of this turmoil in my head, and then my mummy, on my 16th birthday, I'll never forget it, I was at the top of the stairs, and a few times when she'd had a wee glass of wine, she'd say to me, is there anything that you want to talk to me about? I'd be like, what are you talking about, mummy? What would I possibly want to say? Are you sure? I'm always here for you if you need me. Yes, mummy, I know. And meanwhile, I knew exactly what she was trying to say. But there was one day, and it was sort of off the back of an argument, actually, when she said to me, I've had enough. You need to come down and speak to me. And I said, what is it? And she sat me down and she dragged it out of me. She says, Dean, just tell me. And I says, what is there to say? And bearing in mind, I'm 16 years of age by this point, you know. And yeah, that was it. Then I didn't even have to say the words "I'm gay." It was just like, you know what I'm going to say. I couldn't even say it, Emma. The words couldn't come out of my mouth. Honest to God, up until I was about 17, if you'd have said to 17-year-old me, okay, Dean, in 10 years' time, you're going to present a show on Gadio, I would say, no, I'm not. Because I couldn't say the word. I couldn't say the word gay.
That's an incredible journey then.
It's the best journey.
And really, your mum's been... You probably knew anyway that your mum was going to be more than okay with it.
Yeah, I don't know what I was worried about. I don't know why it took me so long to sort of face up to it. I was not afraid of her or what she was going to say or what anybody was going to say in my family, because, like I said before, they are the best family I could ever ask for. So it was just a case of saying the words. Do you know what I mean? It's that actual word that you need to say, I'm gay.
And was moving to England, to move to London and then eventually Manchester, was that really the search for fame and fortune? Or was there an element of, it's not great to be gay in Northern Ireland? Was that ever part of it?
No. I definitely moved to London for the bright lights and the West End, you know, and I went there to follow my dreams of being an actor and being in musical theatre. And, you know, I always say that the arts world held me up when I was falling, you know, when they were breaking up and I had no one else to turn to. I was fine because I was dancing. So that dancing kept me going. I danced my way to London, you know, as you say, in search of fame and fortune. And, you know, in some ways I found that, and I found my place within society. And I always go back to Belfast. And in fact, you know, I did a TV show called Young, Free and Single, which was all about me finding the one, which didn't happen. Belfast Pride rang me up and said, look, we've loved you on the show. You're a great advocate for young LGBT people in Northern Ireland. Would you, you know, come and host Belfast Pride? And for me, that was the ultimate sort of accolade. Yes, I will absolutely return to my home city and I will absolutely host Belfast Pride for you.
What a fantastic experience. So if you could turn around and speak to that 16 or 17-year-old Dean who was terrified of even saying the word gay to his own mother, what would you say to him?
I would say, you're beautiful. You've got the most incredible journey ahead. Your mum loves you. Your dad loves you. Don't let whatever's going on in their lives put you off from speaking out. They're adults and they're supposed to hear you no matter what the circumstance. They're your parents. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid of saying those words. Those words should be afraid of you, because what you're going to do with those words is make a path by which other young people are going to follow. You are going to fly the flag for so many other young people just like you, from the backgrounds just like you. People will look up to you for being gay. Own that 3-letter word. Use it. In every single day of your life, use that word, because in 10 years' time, you're going to celebrate what it's like to be LGBT. And 16-year-old Dean, you don't even know what LGBT means yet because they haven't worked it out. They're still pulling the alphabet together. You're part of a journey that's evolving. You're part of a community that loves you and serves you. Don't be afraid. And say the words, I'm gay. It's going to help you, because you're going to need therapy because of this in about 5 or 6 years' time. So get the words out now and own it, because you need to put it to bed, because you've got a hell of a journey coming up for you.
And is that the same advice you give to young people who are 16 or 17 today?
I think that, you know, in 2018 now, we are of a society that is expressive and is a lot more spiritually aware than certainly when I was growing up. You know, there was no such thing as non-binary. Being trans was being called a tranny, was putting a shake and go wig on, a pair of platforms and a bit of lipstick. That was the height of being a drag queen. Whereas now we've got a whole sort of cultural phenomenon which actually supports and welcomes people from all backgrounds. We didn't have that when we were growing up. So I would say to those young people that are listening, that, you know, we're here for you. You've no idea how beautiful this community is. You know, there is a door here that's waiting for you to open and step inside, but you need to own yourself today, who you are today, doesn't mean to say that that's who you are for the rest of your life. If you're bisexual, that's amazing that you're taking that step and that you're willing to explore this new avenue that might take you to your further destination. You know, there's no one's judging you here. No one. So give yourself a break. Relax. Take it easy. Don't be so hard on yourself. Your sexuality is only a small part of you. What's important is your soul, and your soul's just waiting for you to reconnect with it and give it a big hug.
Massive thank you to Dean for sharing his story. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. We'd also love to hear from you on Twitter. You can find us there at Come Out Stories. I'm Emma Goswell, and Coming Out Stories is a What Goes On Media production. In the next podcast, you'll hear from Olivia.
She was just getting out of the car, getting into her car, and we had a kiss goodbye. And it was outside my house, and my mum was stood at the window. And I looked at her and I was like, I think my mum just saw me kiss you.